Broadcasting from the KMF Collective Studio, it's time for the Athletes of the Titan Games podcast. This limited release show features the stories of the 2020 contestants of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's athletic competition, NBC's The Titan Games. Now, here's your host, Katie Galley.
Hi everyone, and welcome to Season 2, Episode 27 of the Athletes of the Titan Games podcast. I'm your host, Katie Galley. In the KMF Collective Studio with me today, I have Titan Games athlete and sports medicine doctor, Kaleb Redden. How are you doing, Kaleb?
I'm well. Thank you so much for having me, Katie. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely. I'm so excited, Kaleb, to have you as part of the show and to learn more about you and your journey. And so, Kaleb, to get to know your background a little bit, can you tell us where you grew up and how, if at all, was your childhood shaped by athletics?
Yep. So I grew up in a really small town in Wyoming called Big Piney. Its population has about 400, and it hasn't changed in the last 100 years.
Wow.
So it's pretty small. It's an area where it's very isolated. The next town is, another 45 miles away, and there's only 1,000 people there. So it's a small community, and everyone kind of supports each other. Everybody learns to work at a young age. I had a job, I think my 5th grade year. I started working at the county landfill, picking paper, and I've had a job ever since. The town is a very sort of isolated place where everybody takes care of each other, and you learn how to work at a young age. So I started working early in life, 5th grade, but I also started playing sports early in life, and it was readily apparent that I was not a natural-born athlete. I was overweight and slow. I was coordinated and I had heart, but I didn't really have a lot of sort of natural talents and ability. But I started lifting weights and running and putting a lot of extra effort, a lot of extra time, and became a relatively successful athlete. Obviously didn't make it to the NFL, but I did pretty well. Won a lot of state championships in football, track, played hockey, snowboarding, and a lot of, motocross. Well, not motocross, but motorcycle riding and dirt bikes and mountain bikes and things like that, like alternative sports.
Wow.
And I really enjoyed sporting events, and that became my identity as an athlete and as a person, and I've carried that with me through life.
Wow, I mean, it's clear you took your hand at quite a few different types of sports, too. I mean, kind of the whole gambit. And so, Kaleb, then, was there a particular sport that really kind of caught your eye that you went all in on, that maybe you wanted to try and take it to the next level, or is it really just you just loved playing all sports?
Football. Yeah, football, absolutely my favorite sport. And I tried to, after high school, I had intentions of playing in college. Again, coming from a small town, it's kind of a relatively unknown place, so people weren't scouting us, obviously. So
yeah.
Anybody that came out of our small town and played football somewhere, they basically had to get on the team themselves. So I contacted the coaches and the trainers and the staff at Utah State. I went to college my first year in Montana and didn't do very well. I dropped out. I spent a few years working in the oil and gas industry as working on drilling rigs as a roughneck and a roustabout. And then 3 or 4 years later, I went back to college and was set up to walk on and had spring tryouts all ready to go at Utah State, and ended up having a back injury that required surgery and wasn't able to play football in college. But I wasn't not a quitter, so I found another sport that I could compete in, and it ended up being cheerleading. So I was a scholarship athlete at Utah State for cheerleading.
Wow, that's amazing. That's it's a shift, of course, to a new sport. But then being willing to do that because you wanted to compete at that next level. And so, Kaleb, why in that interim, when you stopped going to Montana State and then deciding a couple years later to go back, why did you decide that you wanted to go back to school?
I think bottom line was that I had this kind of drive and yearning in my soul for something more. I was good at what I was doing in the oil and gas industry. It was a place where I could make a great career and have a good living and be comfortable in life, but I'm not a big fan of being comfortable. And the oil and gas industry is a great industry, but it's not where my heart was. It's not something that fulfilled me. I wanted to be successful, and success to me has nothing to do with money or prestige or fame or anything like that. Success to me is all about, making a difference and laying my head down at night and knowing I've given my all to something that I feel like is benefiting the world. And so I love mechanics, I love anatomy, I love science, I love lifting weights and sports, and I just sort of drifted naturally into kinesiology in college, and I got a minor in chemistry, and then I had a couple of great mentors who helped steer me into the medical field and became a sports medicine physician ultimately, and it's been a wonderful career path for me.
Wow. I mean, I bet having that love and that passion from a young age for sports and then being able to kind of have that realized in going down this path with sports medicine. And so, Kaleb, once then in college, you got introduced to the sport of cheerleading. How did that kind of work, or did it work in tandem with your pursuit then to go down the path with sports medicine?
Yeah, it was actually phenomenal. Not something I would have ever guessed would be so beneficial, but the parallels from being an athlete in college, number one, having the leadership roles and responsibilities, the community service that we did, the volunteer service that we did, the length of the season. So with cheerleading, the season starts when football starts, and it doesn't end until spring when you're finishing up with women's and men's soccer, gymnastics. And so I was on season the entire year, and then I would have a month off in the summer and then back at it. So it was a full-time job the whole year. I was able to benefit my community in so many ways. We volunteered at hospitals, nursing homes, schools. I mean, I did Make-A-Wish Foundation events. I got to perform on big events like at professional sporting events like the Utah Jazz basketball team. We performed at halftime. So I was in front of big crowds. I was able to talk to people. I mean, we would run rallies for the big sponsors for the athletics, and so I was constantly communicating and speaking to people. So I learned how to do public speaking, number one. I learned how to stick to it, really. You're, like going to 6 a.m. practices the entire year. I learned how to give of myself to the community and what that type of service does for someone's soul and career. And it was a really choice experience. And that then paralleled to, as I became a sports medicine doctor, I understand sports in a different light because I was around so many different sports. I was around every sport in college because we performed at all those events. And so I understood a lot of different sports, both for men and women. I understood the rigors of sports, right? And like the type of stresses that places athletes under. So I can do more for athletes that are injured because I was an injured athlete and because I understand what they're going through. I sort of understand that the inconvenience of injury is much worse than the pain from injury, and that loss of identity when you get hurt. And it makes me that much more qualified to help people get back to their sport. And it doesn't matter if they're a pro athlete or a college athlete or a high school athlete, or if they just want to be a weekend golfer. People who enjoy sporting events and who are in pain, like, they want to be better. And those are the type of people that I like helping. And it was a great segue from college athletics into my career. Not something I would have ever thought really would have been so beneficial.
Man, that really is such a unique perspective to have on it, because it's true, you got to be a part of all of these different sporting events, all the while pursuing this degree and this other passion in sports medicine, and it really just set you up for success there. But then too, being able to recognize, like you said, having your own injuries and fighting through those, knowing what it's like to have your identity wrapped up in being an athlete, and so how to mentally and physically overcome those, and then being able to help and encourage people in the world of sports medicine.
Yep, exactly.
And so, Kaleb, I mean, from there, so having that college experience, deciding you were going to get a degree and pursue the path of sports medicine, fast forward to today, do you have your own practice? What is it like being a sports medicine doctor?
Yeah, it's a blast.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a blast. Right now, obviously, with the whole situation, it can be a little bit more trying just in the current environment that we're in, because people are so much more, I mean, just with the coronavirus, right? So like that's affected our practice significantly,
Right.
both in positive and negative ways. But so now I don't have my own personal practice per se. I work for a big hospital system in an orthopedics department and sports medicine department. I cover sports teams, so I cover high school teams, I cover semi-pro teams, and I cover some professional and Olympic athletes in their sports. I do have actually 4 jobs though, so along with being a sports medicine doc and being employed by the hospital system, I also work as the medical director for the Mecca Gym, and I oversee personal trainers and help with tailoring personal training plans for people who have had injuries so that they can work around, make accommodations, and improve with their personal training. I work for the state of Idaho as the Idaho Athletics Commissioner, the medical director for the state's Idaho Athletic Commission, and I'm a deputy commissioner. And then I work for Caged Muscle, which is a supplement company, as a team doctor and a sponsored athlete. And then there's another company called Remote Health Solutions that I work as a liaison, trying to help with putting in telemedicine units on drilling rigs. So I stay pretty busy. Along with that, I do things like, I just was the minister or the reverend at one of my friends. I officiated his wedding yesterday. So trying to do things like that on top. But my day is full. I start early and I end late, but it's a rewarding experience. I'm able to help a lot of people. I feel like the work I'm doing is beneficial to the human race. I feel like it's a job that it teaches my kids the value of hard work and dedication. They saw me struggle through residency and fellowship and medical school. They understand the value of education. They understand the value of hard work. They understand that you get out what you put in, and they're able to see the blessings that have come from our journey. I had all 3 of my kids going through all of that, so they've seen that.
Wow.
And I get rewarded well for my efforts. I'm in a position where it costs a lot to get to where I'm at, but I'm rewarded well. And so that was something that was important to me. I wanted to make sure that I had stability. I wanted to make sure that I had, an income that would support my family and be able to do the things that I enjoy doing and love doing. I grew up relatively, I wouldn't want to say anything that would offend my parents, but we grew up pretty poor. We were pretty hard up. My upbringing was, I worked because I had to work to help out. Like, I had to buy my own school clothes, pay for my own insurance, buy my own vehicle. Like, there was no silver spoon, that's for sure. And I'm grateful for that because it made me the man that I am today. But I also wanted to make sure that my kids didn't have to worry whether or not, Christmas was coming in. I'm in a position now where that's not a worry. So
Yeah.
it's definitely a benefit.
Wow. Of course, it seems like you're right. You have an incredibly full plate doing so much. But in that thought process of wanting to leave that lasting legacy, and specifically for your kids, they get to see you work hard at something that you love. And like you said, you can see this, it helps people. It genuinely does. And so being able to do something like that every day, wake up, work hard, put in the work, put in the effort, and knowing that hard work is going to pay off. And so Kaleb, from there, having such full days and really in pursuit of these passions of yours, wanting to encourage everyone and, of course, that next generation. How did then this opportunity for the Titan Games come up, and where did you find the capacity to even fit that into your schedule?
Yeah, that was definitely a sacrifice. I had to make some huge sacrifices to be able to even do that. I didn't realize how much time that was going to require, but I'm still trying to catch up from missing all the work that I did to go down there and do that. But I'm sure, like many of the other Titan contestants, they reached out to me to ask if I'd be willing to perform with them on the Titan Games. They have an open application system that I also had to do and fill out just like everybody else, but they also have headhunters that are looking for people that they think are inspiring and athletic and have a great story. And so their headhunters kind of reached out to me, and I said, yeah, I'd be willing to do it, mostly because my kids love the show. They love Dwayne Johnson, and they love American Ninja Warrior. And they're like, Dad, you're too big for American Ninja Warrior, but you should probably do Titan Games. And I felt like if there was any way I could do this for my kids, that I had to try. So I told them I would do it, and made the accommodations that I needed to get down there and had a blast. was a great experience.
I bet. I mean, and like you said, I mean, having it be worth it to make those sacrifices so that you could have this kind of once in a lifetime, really, opportunity. And so Kaleb, then too, knowing, like you said, the show is created by Dwayne the Rock Johnson, and having the opportunity to meet him and see him and have your kids meet him too. For you, do you remember when maybe the first time you became aware of who The Rock was? Maybe in your when you were younger, when in his wrestling days, just the first time you remember becoming aware of this person.
Yeah, I think I recalled Dwayne Johnson playing football for Miami.
Mm-hmm.
I think I can remember, hearing about him and watching him playing football for Miami. I knew about him as a wrestler. Knew about him through his career with, his first movies. And I watched The Scorpion King. I think that was the first movie that he was in, or the first one I can remember. And I can remember thinking, like, dude, the guy's just massive and huge. He's not the best actor, but he's huge. And he's come so far from his first movies. But
Yeah.
I've been aware of his career, I think, sort of my whole life. He's not that much older than me. So I was an older teenager when he was getting rolling and getting started. So, yeah, I've known about him for a long time. And he's someone that I've just kind of always sort of admired, and I have a lot of very similar views on life that he does. And so when he would say something, I'd be like, yeah, I think that's true. That's right. I think that too. And he's become someone that I reference a lot of times when I'm talking to people. A lot of quote great unquote people that we reference in life are folks that we think achieve success and greatness. And it's good to see someone who does that openly, and he prides himself on being the hardest worker in the room, right? And that's what I think you have to do if you want to be successful. That's what I've had to do. I'm not blessed with overtly, incredible intellectual ability or some, God-given talent in athletics that's phenomenal. I'm not. I'm an average guy. I really am. And I have above average ambition and, an iron will. But I think The Rock's the same way. He's a big dude. Like, he's genetically a big guy and genetically probably a better athlete than I am. But his heart and his character are what I think are even more applaudable. And so I think he's a great role model for people. I think he's a really cool guy. And when I got to chop it up with him at the Titan Games, the dude, he just, he sort of treats you like a friend, and I made him treat me like a friend, and I treated him like a friend. It was just, it was a cool relationship.
I love that. And that's, I mean, one, being able to see his career and really, like you said, kind of reflect and see similarities in your own mission and your own vision in what he was living. And then two, being able to be a part of a show and meeting him, this authentic person. And then in turn, having him create this show where he brings people just like yourself who've overcome incredible odds, doing amazing things in their life, and having that above average ambition, like you said, which I loved that phrase because it's true. You have to be that hardest worker in the room. And so Kaleb, then from that, having that experience with The Rock and then also with all of the other contestants on the show, being able to interact with them and sharing those experiences, what would you say is your definition of a Titan?
Well, all the people that were there, I think, had a very common character trait, and that was that they were willing to overcome any obstacle in life. And I think that I would say people who have the desire to overcome any obstacle in life, regardless of the need for applaud or accolade, they just are driven. They're just driven. People that want to be successful and they want other people to be successful. That's really it. I mean, I saw all the other athletes on the Titan Games who just, it didn't matter what the obstacle was, they were willing to go through the pain and do the work to overcome and to achieve greatness. But they wanted everybody around them to do their best and be successful as well. Like, there was no animosity towards anyone, at least not that I could see. I didn't get to interact with everybody. That's a big group and we weren't always in the same room together, but I got to meet a lot of people that they all just seemed like they wanted everyone to succeed. And I think Dwayne Johnson's that way. Like, when the gun goes off, we're all there to wreck dreams and compete. But when, behind the scenes, we're all there as a team helping each other. I think that that's kind of what it means to be a Titan, willing to overcome any obstacle in life. And that parallels with real life. I mean, yeah, it was a challenge that we were up against on the game show, but it's true in real life too. Like, everybody who was there had overcome monumentous, challenges in life.
Absolutely. And you're so right. I mean, it's whatever, like you said, those Titans, you come up against something, and then it's your willingness to overcome that obstacle, not let it push you down, not sidestep it. It's you're going to overcome it. Whether, and like you said, physically in the competitions that you guys got to take part in the show, but then too mentally overcoming those obstacles in their own life. And so Kaleb, now reflecting back, leading this truly amazing life of overcoming and achieving all these goals that you've have, and leaving this lasting legacy for your own kids and for the people that you get to interact with on an everyday basis in the sporting world and outside of the sporting world, and looking forward, knowing, of course, you're going to continue to achieve those goals. I just have one final question that I ask all of my interviewees. What do you want to be remembered for?
A good daddy. That's all I really care about.
Yeah.
I think if I got remembered as a good daddy and a good husband and a good friend, a good person, that's really all I care about. All the other titles hold little merit to being called daddy. I mean, I'm a doctor, I'm a commissioner, I'm a boss, I'm a reverend, whatever. All these titles, I've carried all these titles throughout my life. The one that I care the most about, the one that holds the most merit, is daddy. All the others pale in comparison and have little significance to what really matters in life. My calling has always been to be a husband and a father, and my career comes second. So if on my tombstone, if it says he was a great daddy and a worthy husband, then I feel like I've got it made.
Thank you all for tuning in to today's installment of the Athletes of the Titan Games podcast. To learn more about each of these Titan athletes, be sure to check out their information in the links in my show notes. Furthermore, to stay up to date on all things coming out of the KMF Collective, be sure to subscribe to the Keep Moving Forward YouTube channel and follow along on social media, also available in the show notes. As the creator of the Titan Games, Mr. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson says, "Titans aren't born, they're made." And I hope today's story helped you realize all that you are capable of becoming if you put in that hard work and just keep moving forward.